let's first talk about how to create a website using HTML and CSS. So here are the trends I want you to really pay attention to. The thing is that if you're trying to really create your website today, data encryption and validation should be top of your mind. So the thing is, you want to create a website using HTML and CSS, but you also want to understand that you got to follow the essential protocols for data security. Okay, and everything you need to transform your website from a blank page into a fully working, eye-catching masterpiece, I will explain to you into this conversation. But before I get into the nitty gritty, I want you to understand the main concept of HTML and CSS. So those two concepts will be quite essential throughout today's discussion. So it's important that you really understand what it is. So let's first talk about HTML. So the hypertext markup language, this is actually the standard that defines a website's components, content, and organizational structure. It doesn't matter the types of website you have. It doesn't matter if you have a blog, if you have, let's just say, a regular website, a personal website, or what have you. Okay, if as long as you have the HTML, this standard will define your website's components, content, and organizational structure. That's what I call the magical trifecta. Next, you have CSS. So basically, CSS. I mean, when creating style sheets that specify how websites elements should appear aesthetically, web designers utilize CSS. So CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets, which is a computer language. Okay, so now we are speaking about programming, if you will. So since the design and feel of a website is ultimately actually reliant on the code that creates the page, you can't have one without the other. In other words, you cannot have CSS without the HTML, and vice versa. So even before using HTML and CSS to build a website, you will need a web server, in other words, hosting, and you can purchase a straightforward hosting service on the servers actually of several web hosting businesses. So here are the steps I want you to really pay attention to. So if we were thinking about HTML versus CSS, first of all, you need to get a grip on HTML's fundamentals. So an HTML tag is the fundamental building block of an HTML document. So I'm showing you on the screen here an example of a tag. So there is actually a B. So a B, in other words, close and open and closed B. You are dealing with now any text between the starting tag and the ending tag will be bolded. Okay, so that's important. So that text in this instance is "Hello World," right? So you can see how it really appeared on the web. Still, here are a few examples of additional labels. I'm going to put this on the screen. So you have the HTML tags and the descriptions. So you can see that every HTML tag is actually meant for a specific purpose, for a specific vision. So here is a snippet of code that will let you do just that. Okay, I want you to really understand that it's actually depending upon the kind of sites you have. Okay, so the first step is you want to get a grip on HTML's fundamentals. Step number two, learning the HTML document structure. So the fundamental HTML document structure is actually as follows. I want you to look on the screen here. So the screenshot on the screen is valid HTML. So just copy and paste it into a new file and save it as index.html. Now let's talk about each component, okay, of this code so you can really understand what happens here. So again, I'm going to put this on the screen. So the doc type HTML and the document's first declaration. Whether you have another declaration that specifies the next HTML page, the language, or the page's primary header. Again, I want you to look on the screen here at that table. Now you can copy your new index HTML file into the root directory of the web server and see it in a browser. Now don't get too excited. This page will be bad. Okay, see on the screen here the way it looks like. Okay, so this is the kind of images you are thinking about. So working on HTML file with simple text software like MS Word is unpleasant. So you want to actually install Sublime Text to simplify HTML editing. So for Mac and PC. So really depends on the project you are working on. Step number three, I want you to learn the basics of CSS selectors. So selectors in CSS are a lot like tags in HTML. So an essential visual behavior could be defined via selector. Consider actually this case of a CSS selector. I want you to look on the screen here. So this option specifies a font size of 18 px for all p's elements inside the content of the HTML document. So on the screen here, I'm showing you a few more basics about CSS properties. So you can see the CSS properties and the description. So from background all the way to width, you see the description there. So while this is one way to use the CSS selectors, a more practical option is to create several classes and then apply them specifically to tags, especially if you are trying to really get things done in a very scalable manner. Okay, so those several classes are quite essential. So in CSS, a class selector looks like this. I want you to look on the screen. Step number four, you need to create CSS style sheets. So every element in an HTML document has a location, and their alignment affects the web page's structure and look. CSS documents are not. So style sheets are CSS files. A CSS style sheet lists all class definitions in the HTML text. So class definition order is usually not important for basic designs. How you build a CSS style sheet defines each class and evaluates the website design. Okay, so that's something to really think about. And so now this could be really tedious, right? But the thing is, I want to simplify things for you. Okay, instead of starting from scratch, you can actually just reach out to a third party or just work in a collaborative environment with other team members. Step number five, you want to install Bootstrap. So Bootstrap is a free HTML CSS toolkit. Bootstrap simplifies HTML and CSS document structure. It provides actually a framework that optimizes your website's core structure for development. Okay, and the cool thing is that Bootstrap gives you more flexibility. It lets you get straight to the exciting part. It skips the tedious HTML and CSS steps of website creation. So there are two choices. You have choice A and choice B. So choice A, study Bootstrap by downloading the core package from the Bootstrap webpage and developing on top of it. Choice B, save time by buying a starter package with a nice design and a simple website. So choice B is my recommendation for many reasons. Starting with using a template makes it a lot easier to understand the HTML document basics. This allows you to concentrate on fun things like content, layout, and design. This way, you'll learn faster and get a better outcome. Step number six, you want to select a design. So, website using HTML and CSS may use any Bootstrap template. They ought to function similarly. So, one thing I want you to understand here is that you want to have the right Bootstrap documents, okay, and that's going to help you big time. So launch the websites in your browser. So here is the template default form. I want you to look on the screen here, okay? And although already attractive, you can alter it if you know HTML and CSS. That will give you more freedom in terms of design, in terms of alteration, okay, and in terms of upgrading it anyway. So one thing I want to say here is that if you are if you're trying to really elevate your website either through CSS or HTML design, knowing coding could help. Okay, I mean it's not necessary, it's not mandatory, but if you have a little bit of coding knowledge, this can help big time. Step number 7, you have HTML and CSS website customization, right? I'm still talking to you about how to create a website using HTML and CSS, okay? Now, when it comes to HTML and CSS website customization, you first want to design the homepage. This will teach you how to change visuals and words and adjust everything. So I briefly discussed the HTML documents actually a little earlier, right? But I want to dig a little deeper. So in Sublime Text, your Bootstrap's sites index.html file has a head section like this. You can see this on the screen here. Now, some of these declarations are new, right? So let me explain here. I want you to continue to look on the screen. So you have for instance, when you have meta name, view part, what it means, okay? And you also have the link href, so it really kind of help you out. Now let me simplify that final statement, which loads the CSS. You want to replace that line, so on the screen. And what happens here is that the non-shortened CSS sheets will load. Changing this version is barely simpler. Scroll to the bottom of index.html. The following lines precede the closing body tag. So the load actually JavaScript files for visual interactions. So JavaScripts allow the About link in the top menu to easily move you to the About block on the same page. And you can ignore, we can ignore this code for now. Let's just wait, okay? So instead, you want to really add content and see how things work. Step number 8, you want to insert text and images. So change the page title. So replace the text between the title tag in the head section with your own. Next, you want to customize the hero section. So the hero portion is this block. So, basically our own stuff would be fantastic. So return to index.html and locate this section to edit this block. So what happens here is that this code controls hero documents, okay? So that's important to keep in mind. And some of the other tags, which you already know, have many CSS classes. So learning all these subjects is simpler than it seems. Modifying index.html default text is easy, but find the tag you wish to alter and update what's between the opening and closing tags. You may actually freely add paragraphs, and we can copy the content on the website and post it depending on the goal we have. The third thing you want to do is to customize other page blocks. So the index.html file has several parts: the navigation, services, portfolio, call to action, contact block, and footer are in a block. And sections have distinct material but are structured similarly. They share HTML tags but have separate CSS classes. So what you want to do is you want to go through each block and explore to customize actually the page. You can change text and rearrange sections. In other words, the pieces between the section tags, though you must cut and paste pieces by hand, it's kind of easy, okay? That's really good. Next, you want to adjust fonts and colors. So in terms of step number 9, you want to adjust fonts and colors. So in HTML and CSS, changing colors and fonts is very simple, okay? Assigning inline style to an HTML element is the easiest, really. Let me give you an example. I want you to look on the screen here. You have P style, color, blah, blah, blah. You put the color, okay? So HTML uses hex values that represent colors. And when you have FF quadruple 0, this is a representation of red. So colors are best assigned using CSS style sheets. So we could add this in our CSS style sheet to obtain the same effect as the code earlier, right? I want you to look on the screen here. So to alter the color of any text on the website, first identify the element that styles it, then go to the style sheet and adjust or create the matching class. First, check the CSS code for classes that may already give alternate sizes or colors before altering your Bootstrap templates colors or fonts. If available, use those, okay? And step number 10, you want to add more pages. So after customizing the home page, start adding pages and linking them to it. So HTML and CSS allow you to connect any number of sub pages. Websites often require the pages like a contact page, about page, privacy, policy pages, portfolio, and more. So another thing we're going to do is include a picture here on the page. So HTML tags look like this on the screen for image, right? Now, image path is the only one parameter, so you can add your picture to the image directory to organize. So after creating the pages, connect them from the home page. So this link belongs in the navigation menu. So follow this line, and we'll alter it now to this. So as you can see here, the HTML element is the link tag. It links to any web page by specifying its address in the href arguments. The clickable link text is between the AA elements. So your new about link will appear when you reload the home page. So that's kind of cool. So all done. Okay. So your website is awesome now. So it's one of those things where you got to constantly get on things. So when I say you got to constantly get on things here, let me speak to you about a few extras here. So what are some crucial HTML tags for a website? Well, you do have four. HTML has four fundamental tags. So you have the HTML. I'm going to put this on the screen. You have the head and head. You have title, and then you have body. Okay. Now, CSS format and design actually can really impact a web page big time. Remember that I said CSS stands for what? Cascading style sheets. Okay, so CSS styles and layouts actually can affect web pages, can change colors, can change fonts, can change size and spacing, can split text into columns, can add animations and other aesthetic elements. So you do have a lot of autonomy when it comes to design capability. Okay, and so when you actually are, if you are serious about web development, you should actually make sure that you are like constantly sort of cultivating, not just cultivating new skills, but also making sure you are beefing up your skills. Okay. Now, HTML and CSS are best learned through a supervised practice. Don't try to really do it yourself unless you spend lots of hours. Okay, in person or online boot camps or guided courses are options, and videos, lectures, and guided practice comprise a course. Some have tests after each class. Okay, and so there are some tools that are perfect for HTML this year. For instance, you have a Notepad++, you have Atom, you have Sublime Text, you have Adobe Dreamweaver CC, etc. So those are actually a top three HTML editors. In conclusion to this conversation, I spoke to you about how to create a website using HTML. I spoke about the trains, the steps, the extras, and now the conclusion. Thank you so much. God bless you. I will see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.